Fine. Pausing briefly, Lena added in a huff, "You don't deserve her." Without another word, they both hung up. "Piss on you, you little elf," Thomas muttered to himself after their conversation had ended, never having enough courage to say anything inflammatory directly to his mother-in-law's face. For some reason, this small imp of a woman intimidated him. Hello. Welcome to In My Words. The book I am reading from is titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles. This book is not intended for young readers. After each reading session, I will briefly give information about a chosen plant. I hope through my words you will gain insight, knowledge, and a deeper appreciation and understanding of this mysterious and intricate world. Though the road may be long and hard, compassion and beauty can be gained through the enjoyment of nature and experiencing its wondrous gifts. Thank you for joining me. Chapter 5, A Visit from Tomas. Lena was finally able to get a hold of Tomas at work. "Tomas?" Lena questioned. "Yep," he replied, hearing his mother-in-law's voice on the other end of the phone. "Jane is in the hospital. She's in labor. I think you should go right away." Lena didn't know that her granddaughter was already born, for after Jane gave birth and things settled down a bit, the young woman fell asleep. It was very exhausting for Jane to be in labor. For most of her pregnancy, she never had enough food and would tire easily. Having 3 children to care for and a lack of income didn't allow Jane to have enough energy for birthing another baby. "Why?" Thomas retorted to Lena's insistence. "She's having your baby," the little woman said in a raised voice. It always amazed Lena how truly heartless Thomas could be at times. She tried to accept Jane's husband as one of the family, yet Lena didn't have the full understanding of why Thomas kept his distance. Years later, Lena would come to learn that Thomas was an abusive man with mental instabilities. Thomas and the monster always tried very hard to stay away from the Nye family for fear of revealing his true selves. "When I get back to the city, I'll check in on her." "Fine." Pausing briefly, Lena added in a huff, "You don't deserve her." Without another word, they both hung up. "Piss on you, you little elf," Thomas muttered to himself after their conversation had ended, never having enough courage to say anything inflammatory directly to his mother-in-law's face. For some reason, this small imp of a woman intimidated him. When Thomas finally arrived at the hospital, he saw Herman in the father's waiting room. Herman was a tall man, just like Thomas, but he rose an extra 2 inches above the younger man. Herman's nearly blue-black hair, handsome face with a well-defined jaw, and olive skin made for a formidable opponent. Herman was heading his way back to Lena now that Jane and Sarah were sleeping soundly. Crossing Thomas' path as he neared the exit of the hospital, Herman looked sternly at his son-in-law. Meeting his gaze, Thomas asked, his voice dripping with venom, "What are you doing here?" "I brought Jane to the hospital to have your baby," Herman responded, bitterly sizing up Thomas. He didn't like the man that his daughter married. There seemed to be some kind of deep underlying current that coursed through Thomas's veins. Yet Herman was unable to put a name to the feelings he had. His daughter only spoke praise for her husband, which confused Herman's mixed feelings with his son-in-law. He never approved of Thomas, for there seemed to be something just a little bit off with the young man. After the birth of Jane's second child, Herman had tried to bring reason to his young daughter. "Why do you stay with Tom?" Herman questioned. Quizzically, Jane looked at her dad and replied, "Don't call him Tom. He doesn't like it." Herman's brow crinkled with irritation as he listened to his daughter's response to his question. Realizing that she had made a slip of her tongue, Jane quickly added, "I love him. Why would you even ask me such a question?" So as not to upset her pa further, Jane hurriedly added, "Besides, we have children together. I couldn't just leave him." That wasn't the answer that Herman was hoping for. He had hoped Jane would have told him about the good qualities of her husband. Instead, he only heard a wife defending her husband. He felt no love coming from his daughter's words. They seemed cold, almost forced. After only a few more minutes of questions, Herman inquired no more. He realized that Jane wouldn't speak poorly of her husband, for now all he could do was support his daughter by being there for her when she needed him. But Herman knew that Jane was keeping a secret. He could see she had a troubled mind, and sensed her hesitation with nearly every word she spoke. Hopefully someday she would speak the truth and confide in him. "So where is she?" Thomas questioned as he disrupted Herman's thoughts. "She's already had the baby. It's a girl," he said proudly, hoping to ruin the event for his son-in-law. "So she's in her room?" Thomas replied, not caring to use his wife's name. "She's probably sleeping, though. You should give her a few hours to rest." Replying as though he was being a spoiled child, Thomas said, "Why? She's my wife, and I can see her when I want to." In his mind, Herman could almost imagine Thomas sticking his tongue out in defiance. Begrudgingly, Herman answered, knowing that the new father would find out where Jean was just by asking a nun or a nurse. "She's in room 212, Herman said, "but you should let her rest." His words came out almost as a warning, but apparently not sternly enough. Thomas turned on his heel and headed for Jane's room, ignoring his father-in-law's warning, and continued to walk away. Shaking his head in defeat, Herman left to be with Lena. After all, how could he stop a husband going to see his wife after she had just had his baby? Today's highlighted plant is Viola tricolor. Viola tricolor has many common names. They are Johnny Jump Up, Heart's Ease, Pansy, Viola, and Violet. The Johnny Jump Up colors are purple, white, and yellow, hence the tricolor in its name. These flowers bloom in the spring and grow until a light frost in the autumn. They will grow quite well in containers, and once planted in the ground will continue to grow without the need of replanting, for they will come back year after year. They are a heat-loving plant, but will grow nearly anywhere, including in light to moderate shade. The flowers are small and delicate looking. They attract butterflies. The flowers are edible and are said to have a taste of wintergreen. They are excellent for candying. People put the candied flowers on top of cakes for an edible decoration. Johnny Jump-Ups will grow 4 to 6 inches high. The flowers are small, beautiful, and delicate. Please like, share, and subscribe. Next week, I will highlight another plant and continue reading. If you would like to follow along with this reading, you may pick up the book titled The Monster We Call Dad by D.A. Riles at Amazon.com. I look forward to having you join me next week.